Professor of Political Science at Fordham University and the co-host of the podcast FAQ NYC. Nayyera Haq is a host on SiriusXM, formerly White House Senior Director and former State Department Senior Advisor. And we're also joined by NBCNews.com Senior Political Analyst Jonathan Allen. Good to see all y'all tonight. Professor Greer, let me start with you and your thoughts on this move by the president. I can understand the critiques of the executive orders, certainly the legal argument as to whether or not this will hold up, considering that Congress has the power of the purse and not him. The political calculus seemed pretty obvious. I mean, right beyond the president were the reporters, and behind the reporters were people at his club in Bedminster who I guess they kind of called in to say, hey, want to watch a presidential press conference?
Right. I mean, just the visuals of that alone, we have a sitting president at his own country club making money whilst delivering formal news to the American public and criticizing the media while he's doing that. Mind you now, most people weren't even masked, which is highly problematic. But I think the press conference today really did illuminate just how little respect and understanding the president has for the separation of powers. The framers really did explicitly lay out that Congress has the power of the purse. They did give the executive the power to have executive orders, and so that's a presidential power that's incredibly important. But the president oftentimes confused signing an executive order and signing a bill. And so he doesn't understand when Congress writes legislation, they send it to the president to sign. That is how a bill becomes a law. An executive order does not have any interaction with Congress, and it also doesn't have the weight of the law behind it. The next subsequent president can come and undo it and reverse it. We've seen positive executive orders in the past, i.e. integrating the armed forces. We've also seen negative executive orders, i.e. putting Japanese Americans and certain Germans and Italians in concentration camps. So the president doesn't fully understand what the role of the executive is. And then today we see him just projecting, obviously going way off, not even talking about what he invited us to discuss, but just starting the critiques and the attacks on Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Joe Biden, obviously, and then trying to turn what should be a policy conversation into a low-key campaign rally with some invited guests who have paid $350,000 to say that they heard the president ramble for an hour or so.
I have to say, Jonathan, before I come to you, Professor Greer, I was not expecting you to have to explain how a bill, to kind of schoolhouse rock for us, the difference between a bill and executive order. When I hear you do that, I'm like, we have turned a page. That's what's going on Saturday night, is we have to schoolhouse rock a bill versus an executive order. Jonathan, with regards to this executive order, what happens now? You know, the professor is right that these are two very different kinds of documents. There's already a threat of a legal challenge to this because Democrats argue that the president is trying to do something that is outside of the power of the executive. Do we have any concrete sense of whether or not that is an actual plan? Is it an idle threat? What does it look like right now?
I mean, number one, the president has figured out that if he does things, it takes a long time for the lawsuits to work their way through the courts. So for the short term, he has the advantage of being able to implement what he wants. Perhaps there would be some sort of injunction to stop him. On some of these things, he actually appears to have some power to do it. He may be able to suspend the collection of the payroll tax. There may be a lawsuit about that, but there does seem to be some flexibility there. I mean, I think on a policy level that there's some question about the political smarts of this. Here's a president who campaigned proudly in 2016 on the idea that he was going to protect Medicare and Social Security, and what he's doing now is robbing the funds from that payroll tax that actually put the money into Medicare and Social Security, and doing it from folks who are actually getting paid right now, as opposed to those who are unemployed. The other thing is, with this executive order, it doesn't do the basic things he wants to do. It doesn't send out stimulus checks, which is something he wants to do. It's something Nancy Pelosi wants to do. It's something Mitch McConnell wants to do. It also doesn't, it doesn't address the small business issues that still remain, and a variety of other things. So it's a short-term patch, and it's the best he could hope to do.
Nayyera, what is your sense of these executive orders? Some of them, if they went forward, if they survived, would have enormous effects on our economy.
Well, the irony of all ironies, this is a president who claims he's a deal maker, has not actually gone to the Hill or engaged directly in any of the negotiations. So he's been entirely absent from this process. He derided President Obama for trying to pass administrative law through executive orders. It's exactly what he's doing now. And as part of his press conference, he actually tried to claim credit for two of the notable pieces of legislation that President Obama passed. So Veterans Choice, as well as the insurance companies having to cover pre-existing conditions. So that's the context in which suddenly we have a president who is now trying to work around Congress and trying to implement some type of, I can't even call it legislation, but some kind of policy that will effectively raid the government of $1 trillion, if not more, right? That's what eliminating the payroll tax and the ability to fund Medicare and Medicaid will, and Social Security will end up doing at a time when we are already not only massively in debt, but looking at trillions of dollars of stimulus. So he's adding to the deficit. He's not actually fixing any of the fundamentals of the economy, and he's using all of the tools that he blamed the previous president for using.
Everybody stick around. Much more we'd like to talk about with you tonight. Coming up, New York State is suing to dissolve the NRA. What's behind the lawsuit, and what are its chances in court?